right, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball video. It is almost that time. Dragon Ball Genki Diamond DLC, the biggest Dragon Ball event of all time, is officially less than a week away now from when you guys are seeing this video, and I am so excited. So today we're going to be going over everything Dragon Ball related, all of my predictions. This is going to be the final prediction before the upcoming event, because I do think this coming week they'll start rolling out some things here and there before the official event that probably won't be shown there, or maybe not in the biggest capacity that we initially thought. So before we do hop into today's video, because we have a lot to talk about, we're going to be going over Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, we're going to be going over Dragon Ball Z Kakarot Daima, and also Dragon Ball Super, the big main event here that I still have some very strong opinions about. So if you guys are excited for more updates for Dragon Ball in the near future, and you're going to be tuned into that Genki Diamond DLC event, just like all of us watching this video I'm sure will be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any Dragon Ball updates, especially with what's coming up this weekend, next weekend. Without further ado, let's hop right in. So I want to start off this video talking about, I guess, Sparking Zero first. Like I said, we're going to be going over Sparking Zero, Kakarot, Daima, then Dragon Ball Super. But initially I want to talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, since we've already recently done a big video on what I'm expecting from Sparking Zero this upcoming year, not just from this upcoming week in the event next weekend, but all throughout the year. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but we're over on DBS Hype's Twitter account, where he says next in line for the reveal, Sparking Zero new DLC, and then finally the big event. Now I think that he's wording it like this because there's no Sparking Zero, I guess, panel or like reveal panel, I guess you can call it, scheduled for Genki Diamond DLC next weekend. So this upcoming week is Sunday when you guys are seeing this video. This upcoming week, sometime throughout the week, is probably when we're going to get the reveal for a season 2 DLC for Sparking Zero. Now if it doesn't happen like that, I still fully expect it to be at the Genki Diamond DLC event, but since there's no official panel, you know, the game will be there, but there's no official like reveal panel or anything like that scheduled for the event, we'll probably get some news this upcoming week. So here's the first tweet that DBS Hype put out this month at the top of the month. Here's everything to look forward to this month, and I know you guys have seen this tweet through multiple videos of mine now. We can go ahead and scratch off the DBZ Kakarot Diamond DLC Part 2. That already came out, and like I said, we'll get into that in a second as well, because I've seen a lot of noise. I played it myself. I've heard people saying that this could be like some type of teaser or something like that for what's to come possibly. We'll talk about that in a second. Next would be the Sparking Zero DLC announcement for a season 2, and then after that, all of the events and reveals for Genki Diamond DLC. So as we talked about in the most recent video that I did on Sparking Zero season 2 DLC announcement, you guys kind of already know what I'm expecting to see from this game moving forward, not just in a season 2 DLC announcement, but throughout the entire year as well, throughout, you know, all the frequent updates that they do. We're gonna need a lot more than DLC characters to kind of win the player base back, if you guys get what I'm saying. We're gonna need new stages, of course. We got one new stage over the course of the entire first year of the game coming out. That is unacceptable. We're gonna need a lot more customizations, which I feel like people kind of gave up on a little bit, since, I mean, honestly, that isn't the most important thing. I think everything else we're going to talk about is a lot more important than customizations, but since that's something that we were promised by the producers themselves before the game came out, it was very disappointing to see, you know, all the lackluster customizations in the game. And we only got one in a DLC pack last year. That was in the Hero of Justice pack with Red Ribbon Piccolo. So we do need a lot more in that aspect. I think one of the most important things though is we need a lot more solo offline content for players. That is what's going to bring the player base back in mass, in my opinion, because that's one of the things that is the most disappointing about the game. The solo offline player experience is just not fun. Custom battle is cool if you have a lot of time to kill and you want to build all of these custom battles and stuff like that, or if you make content, custom battle is really good. But as far as episode battles, as far as more what ifs, as far as just more offline game modes as a whole, they're really lacking in that aspect. So I'm gonna go over here. I already have this pulled up on my last Sparking Zero video that we did for a season 2 prediction and wish list. I want to go through some of these comments with you guys, and we're not going to spend like 20 minutes just going through comments on this video, because we have a lot more to talk about when it comes to this event next weekend. But I just want to highlight some of these comments that I saw. So This first one says, something I never understood or liked was making a new fighting game but leaving out characters from previous rosters. I don't understand the practice. Some devs will say, well, they died in the first game story. Who gives a shit? We aren't playing the story unless we absolutely have to so we can unlock the characters. That I won't 100% agree with, but I do know when it comes to fighting games themselves, the story isn't like the main aspect. When it comes to fighting games, it's a PvP type of, environment, right? Like that's the most important thing. But in a game like Sparking Zero, the offline player base and the offline content does really matter, because not everybody wants to go play ranked match all the time. Ranked match can actually get pretty annoying in a game like this in particular, where there's just so much cheese. You have to balance this thing very frequently to kind of keep things fresh, and so people don't get bored and things like that. So I'm not gonna 100% say that he's right, that we're not playing the story unless we have to. It's Dragon Ball. Like, we're gonna keep playing the story. The episode battles in Sparking Zero were really fun. The what ifs were a great addition to the game. I guess not really an addition, it was something that came back from previous games, especially from like the first Budokai game and things like that. But more things like that is really what we need from this franchise, I guess, right? So the second comment right here, and like I said, I'm not gonna spend the most time on these comments. The second one says, my wish list is the remaining characters for OG Dragon Ball, especially Demon King Piccolo, and for the Goku and the Vegeta Z end, I want them to have their end of Z skins. I feel like that would be a great customization to have to the game. There's so many others as well. I can't even think of all the ones that I want off the top of my head. I feel like we should be able to change, you guys know how we got the V jump aura. I feel like we should be able to change the color of characters' auras as we want as well. I feel like you should have more customizations. Like say I wanted to put like the fan on Goku's back or something like that. He already has the power pole as an accessory. What if I want to put the fan on, or like the turtle shell or something like that? There's just so many other things that this game is missing. It just feels like a shell of what it's supposed to be. Also, I need the other grade 8 forms for Nappa, Raditz, Turles, Bardock, and Kid Goku, and we want more episode battles, especially for Vegeta. I'm gonna disagree with this comment a little bit. I don't really care for all the other grade 8 forms. I know they were in past games, but honestly, you just have them in for the namesake. Like, how differently are the grade 8s gonna play from one another? Like, they're not really, outside of like Super Baby Vegeta's grade 8 form, they're all gonna play like grade 8 Vegeta, right? So I'm not really too stressed on getting the other grade 8 forms. Now, I do agree with we want more episode battles, especially for Vegeta. I'm gonna take this a step further though. We want more characters for episode battles. Now, how far they go with that is definitely on them, but I feel like, having Future Gohan's episode battle, maybe having, I don't know, when we get more OG Dragon Ball characters, having Kid Goku's episode battle, things like that would really make this game more fresh. They would bring people back, and that's the type of offline content that we want. Now, I know we have Legendary Warrior Face Off, which I said in the last video is definitely not something that people are running back to the game to play, but if they did like Xenoverse 2 style raids for Sparking Zero, that's the type of stuff that's gonna get the player base back. So I really hope somebody is watching this. Furutani, I hope that y'all are implementing stuff like this, working on more raid battles for us, more episode battles. Give us a Kid Goku episode battle, give us a Future Gohan episode battle. Stuff like that is what we want, on top of everything else that we talked about recently too. Crossplay is a must at some point in time. They said that they were working on this a while back, but we haven't really heard anything else about it since the last time, which was like at the beginning of 2025 or something like that. So crossplay, more customizations, more episode battles, more offline content as a whole. I've never really thought about this aspect before, because we know that they're going to keep adjusting things that we've seen like the modding community done, and they're going to say that with only 2 super attacks, the fights get really repetitive really quickly. I do kind of agree to a certain extent. Now, within the combat system, I guarantee if they start prioritizing some of these other things that we've been talking about for months now, this game will be in a much better light. To be a ridiculously good player to make use of all of the combat mechanics in the game. Most of us just hone in on like a handful here or there. Maybe you try to implement an extra one when you feel like you've kind of hit a wall or something like that. That's usually how fighting game players operate. But when it comes to kind of what this guy is saying, I do get that the main appeal of fighting in Sparking Zero is how pretty the game looks, the graphics and everything like that. So having more super attacks to look at, having more big explosions and clashes and everything like that would definitely be another draw to the game. And this is where the modding community kind of came in and excelled at what they've done. So as you guys know, we've done plenty of modded videos for Sparking Zero in the past, where the modders have done this thing where, say a character has a buff skill like Kaioken on Goku or Super Saiyan Blue Evolved on Vegeta, so that buff skill would activate an entirely different side of a moveset that is only applicable when that buff skill is active. I call it like the A side and the B side of a moveset. So say the A side of, you know, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku would have Super God Fist or something like that, and then the B side would have like a Super Kaioken times 10 Kamehameha for Goku. That skill would only be active, and this would give us, you know, those 2 extra moves in the move set, but it's hidden behind the buff skill wall. So that side of his skill set would only be applicable while he's in Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, and this would get him 6 moves instead of 4, or 4 super attacks instead of 2, but they just be behind that, you know, that activation wall that you need, you know, however many skill counts to activate. I think for Super Saiyan Blue Evolved, it's what, like 4 or 5 skill counts, and then for Kaioken, I think it's 2 or 3. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but this is kind of where I guess I would go with that. And like I said, the modders have definitely done a fantastic job with implementing things like that. And I really think that for this game to not get too fan servicey, but to make the, I guess, the experience a little bit more fresh and not feel as, I guess, repetitive as this person is saying, they could definitely look to the modding community and implement some things that those guys have done, because I really enjoy playing with mods in this game. It's one of the greatest games for mods, in my opinion, when it comes to anime fighters. But I for sure think that some of the things that the modders are doing are things that the devs could kind of take notes from and kind of put their own spin on it, so it doesn't just look like a copy and paste, but make it your own when it comes to, you know, revamping Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Alright, so I'm not going to spend too much time in this video on Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I know that isn't the main thing that everyone clicked on this video for, and we just recently did a full-length video on my predictions for a Season 2 DLC for the game. But just to kind of rehash some of the things from that video and expand on some other things that I maybe didn't go over in that video and probably skipped over in this one as well. As far as DLC characters go, obviously I think that eventually we will get more Shallot transformations. In Dragon Ball Legends, he's all the way up to Super Saiyan Blue, so we have an entire transformation wheel for him to go through in Sparking Zero. As far as Super Dragon Ball Heroes goes, that is an entire untapped DLC gold mine for most Dragon Ball games, whether that be the mobile games. I mean, Dokkan obviously has tapped into that well a little bit, not so much Legends, not so much Genshin Squadra, and definitely not so much Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So hopefully we can see a little bit of that implemented in some of these games this year. And of course, I have been like the #1 cheerleader for Android 21 coming to Sparking Zero. So if we do, you know, go past like the OG Dragon Ball DLC that I feel like is a given at this point, at some point in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero's lifespan, they're not just gonna let us only have Kid Goku for the entirety of this game. If we go past an expanded GT pack for this game, because we're still missing Super 17, Ice and Nova Shenron, if you want to go a little bit further than that, maybe Rildo, Legic and things like that, that's more so what I'm hoping for when it comes to DLC characters. But like I've been saying this entire time, this game needs a lot more than just, you know, feeding us DLC characters and online battle adjustment updates to kind of keep this thing going, right? But all in all, that's mainly what I'm looking for in any order at all. It doesn't really matter to me when it comes to a Season 2 DLC for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now let's go over to DBZ Kakarot, and I really want to show you guys this. Spoilers in case you haven't played this yet, but this is the I guess extended alternate post-credit scene ending from Kakarot that we didn't necessarily see at the end of episode 24 Dragon Ball Daima. So I'm just gonna let this play and then we'll talk about it a little bit at the end here.
I can cut you a deal if you want to take them off my hands.
You know, it kind of feels like a waste.
What does?
This might sound crazy, but I just got used to being tiny. I mean, I made it to Super Saiyan 4 and everything. And I gotta admit, it was fun using the power pole again. maybe it would have been nice to stay a kid for a little while longer.
Even after you went to all that trouble to get your old body back?
Only you would be this absurd.
I get it, Goku, in a similar yet completely different way. I wouldn't say no to having smooth young skin again. That'd be a dream.
You don't say. Looking to become a youngin' again, are ya?
I mean, not forever, but just for a little bit sometimes.
Then I've got just the thing for you. I could have sworn I would never sell a single one of these, so I had them pack them away in the back. Aha! There we are. Mini bugs.
Mini bugs?
Just swallow one of these babies and you'll be a kid again for a little while.
What?
Oh, wow! Now that's what I call awesome. Right?
What? Seriously?
All right, guys, so what you just saw there, I know it was kind of weird seeing, you know, a post-credit scene after the end of Dragon Ball Daima that wasn't included in the anime itself, but what you just saw right there was the introduction of a new type of meta bug, the mini bug. So as you heard, Goku was making it seem like, you know, it was fun being a kid again, right? It was fun being turned into a kid, and while he doesn't want to stay that way all the time, being able to do that every now and then was really fun. So the shop merchant gave him the mini bugs, and people are saying that this is possibly setting up a sequel for Dragon Ball Daima, maybe in the sense of, you know, a new season, or what I think, if this is even true, is most plausible, what this would be best done in a movie announcement that they could announce at Dragon Ball Genki DLC, which I still don't think is 100% accurate. I do think that we're going to be getting a totally different movie, like we said in the last video that we did a couple of weeks ago. Maybe like the introduction of a new character, or maybe the moral arc even, which I still got all my chips on the table for, in a movie format, or the Dragon Ball Super anime coming back. But what I've seen most people saying is that this could possibly set up some type of sequel for Dragon Ball Daima. And while I may not be all the way on board with the sequel for Dragon Ball Daima because of, you know, the state that Dragon Ball is in right now, and we don't have Toriyama anymore, unfortunately, I will point out that Toriyama personally wrote all of Dragon Ball Daima himself, and even contributed to new lore for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot while he was still alive. So while I might not be all the way on board with this theory, it's not impossible, and stranger things have happened. And we also got to remember, we have two major project announcements scheduled for Genki DLC. I've been, you know, very vocal about what I think they're gonna be. One, at least in my opinion, will probably be a movie. Now, will it be a Daima sequel movie that people are saying that this post-credit scene in Kakarot could possibly be setting up? I don't know for sure. I'm still on the side of the movie will probably be on a different character entirely, whether that be, you know, a new villain getting set up for the future of Dragon Ball, or maybe like a character's, I don't know, like backstory or something like that. We'll see how that goes. Like, it could be like another future a future situation, or future Trunks situation with future Gohan and, you know, the androids and everything like that. It could be that type of movie that, you know, gives more lore to another character, or it could be a Daima sequel. But in my personal opinion, one of those is probably going to be a movie. The other one could be a movie, or the Dragon Ball Super anime coming back, which I'm putting all my chips on the table for the moral arc finally being delivered to us. If it's not that, I will be disappointed, but I just have high hopes that for this event to be, you know, getting advertised as big as it's going to be, it has to be something like that, right? Like, I would be shocked if we didn't get either two movies or the Dragon Ball Super anime coming back. But that's just my opinion. You know, form your own opinions. I'm just a YouTuber, but I'm definitely not the only person that thinks that we're getting at least one animated project at the big event next weekend. So the last thing I want to talk about today, because I know this video is already going on pretty long, is this right here, the big drama around the recent Toei DMCA that happened a couple of weeks ago, which everybody's saying pretty much all but confirms Dragon Ball Super's return, whether that be a remake for the anime or a continuation of the anime. Let's hop right into this article, because I saw this briefly. I didn't think much of it at first, but people are making a really big deal about this. So let's go ahead and read this article from MSN, where they're talking about all the drama that happened a couple of weeks ago with the recent Toei DMCA over a Dragon Ball Super image image that got copyrighted when somebody posted. So this is gonna start off by saying Dragon Ball Super's heavily rumored anime remake has inadvertently been all but confirmed by Toei Animation. This is Tori, I don't know why. Fans have been talking about for months about a potential full DBS remake series to be announced during January 2026's Genki Dynasty event, though they all seem like hyperbolic speculation until now. Recently, an image of a remade Dragon Ball Super animation cell featuring Goku's initial transformation into the Super Saiyan God form was leaked online, fueling rumors that the entire early series was getting a full remake. As with any leak, fans approached it with skepticism. However, Toei seems to have accidentally confirmed the leak by way of a copyright claim that resulted in the image's removal from social media. Dragon Ball Super's remake leak started with an image of Goku turning into a Super Saiyan God. The leaked Dragon Ball Super image in question was originally posted by ex-user Walid on December 16th. Walid posted an animation cell of unknown origin that depicted Goku surrounded by Vegeta, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Videl as the group held hands together in order to channel their ki into Goku to turn him into a Super Saiyan God. Fans immediately recognized the animation cell as the iconic God of Destruction Beerus Saga scene, but what stood out to fans most was that this image looked very different from prior depictions seen in the anime so far. The scene has been depicted multiple times in both Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods film and the Dragon Ball Super anime, but this new animation cell contained notable differences from any of those depictions. Most notably different was the image's art style, which just didn't match with what fans had seen in previous iterations. It appeared this was truly from a brand new portrayal of the scene that's unique to any that the fans have seen before. As interesting as this leaked image already was, the general Dragon Ball fandom still wasn't convinced. I was part of that side that wasn't really convinced. Just had to see how this played out, right? It already seemed unlikely enough that the Dragon Ball Super anime would return for the Moro Saga in Dragon Ball Super Part 2, let alone retread old ground. But Toei Animation's recent legal action just made things much more complicated. And this is the tweet right here. This says, this is from Walid. The leaked Dragon Ball Super image I posted just got hit with a DMCA takedown from Toei Animation's enforcement team. That basically confirms that it was real official material. They referenced the original art directly. We'll wait for legit announcements later, and obviously we can't see the image because it got taken down, but apparently this is causing a big storm. And like I said, this is, I guess all but confirming that we will be getting some type of Dragon Ball Super animated announcement in the upcoming week, whether it be a complete remake of Dragon Ball Super, because I'm not gonna lie, it does seem really early for a Dragon Ball Super remake of the entire anime. I mean, the anime just ended, what, a little under 8 years ago at this point. But let's be honest, the first part of the anime was trash animation wise, so I can see why they want to kind of X that out of their history. They don't want to be known for that. I do get it, but this could also mean that at the end of the remake, when we get past the Tournament of Power, nothing says that they have to stop at the same point that the original Dragon Ball Super anime stopped at, right? So this could still mean the Moro Saga after the end of the Tournament of Power. If we don't just outright get the Moro Saga at the event next week, I still think that it could be very likely that if we do get a Dragon Ball Super anime remake, that they're just gonna go past the Tournament of Power this time. Early in the day on December 23rd, Toei Animation apparently issued a DMC takedown of the leaked Dragon Ball Super image, thereby confirming that it was in fact an official image owned by Toei. The copyright filing now officially proves the validity of this Dragon Ball Super remake art, which also corroborates the Dragon Ball Super remake rumors, of course. There's more to the story than that. While the image is definitely real and the remake of this scene thusly confirmed, there's still no official direct confirmation from Toei that the scene is technically from a full Dragon Ball Super anime remake. That's right, it could literally be anything. I don't want to jump to conclusions either. Like I said, it does kind of all but confirm that there will be some type of Dragon Ball Super animated project to get announced soon. There's no telling if it's going to be a remake of the anime or an extension of the anime. We'll just have to wait and see. In fact, there's not even confirmation that this leak is from a new anime. It's possible, however, this is what I was trying to say. However, unlikely that this was simply an animation cell that was never used for the original anime, and Toei simply didn't want it out in the wild without their permission. It could have been from some random trailer, anything like that, but I feel like that's a little bit less likely than what we're hoping for, right? It's also entirely possible that even if this image is as new as it seems to be, this scene is being remade for a flashback in a newer anime, as Goku that also could be true. This could just be a scene from a flashback from something, you know, further down the line, right? Which kind of feeds into the, maybe it's the moral arc coming up. We'll see though, we'll see. Don't take my word for it, let's just wait. That would not at all be unprecedented for the series. Dragon Ball Daima was filled with reanimated DBZ flashbacks. It certainly was, and they looked absolutely unreal. I wish that they would go back and remake Dragon Ball Z in the Daima style. That was, yo, the Buu Saga flashbacks in Daima looked unreal. So perhaps this scene could even be trying to tying a new Dragon Ball Daima sequel into Dragon Ball Super somehow. Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. If that happened, that would be just as good as the Super anime coming back. Wow, I didn't even think of that. On the other hand, multiple leakers and content creators have corroborated this rumor, and the original poster of the image has also insisted that it is definitely from a Dragon Ball Super remake. If that's true, it's definitely an intriguing decision on Toei and Capsule Corp Tokyo's part. Rumors suggest that this remake could be a more manga-accurate portrayal of Toyotaro's personal vision for Dragon Ball Super's early arcs, and that could eventually lead up to newer sagas in the manga that fans are really hoping for. Yeah, we just said that, like Moro and Granola. That's what I was talking about prior. Like, even if this is a Dragon Ball Super remake where they start from the beginning, they start from the God of Destruction Beerus saga, there's nothing saying that they have to stop at the end of the Tournament of Power like the original Dragon Ball Super anime. They could very well just go right past that, and the week after the Tournament of Power ends, we're just right into the Moro arc, right? We're seeing Mirrors and things like that. I'm so excited for Mirrors, man. Mirrors, Moro, and Susanoo Ultra Instinct Goku. And then if we get, we probably won't, I'm not gonna get too ahead of myself, we probably won't get the Granola arc anytime soon, but when we do, oh boy, Ultra Ego is gonna break the internet, man. And then Black Frieza at the end too. Oh lord, anything is possible at this point, as the image's validity opens up a new can of worms ripe with implications that seemed like pipe dreams before. While most fans would definitely prefer to see Ultra Ego, Vegeta, and Black Frieza animated instead of yet another God of Destruction Beerus saga remake, there's no denying the original DBS anime's interpretation of those early arcs left much to be desired in the animation department. And any new Dragon Ball anime is exciting news, even if it's the same story fans have seen 3 times before now. So I'm not gonna lie, if it's an entire Dragon Ball Super anime remake, I wouldn't be mad at this. I wouldn't be mad at seeing, you know, the initial fight between Beerus and Goku on King Kai's planet being animated much better. I wouldn't mind seeing, if this is gonna be Toyotaro's manga adaptation into the anime, seeing the differences in the Future Saga with how Zamasu was much different and how the fight was much different in that arc in the manga than it was in the anime, with the God Switch technique, with Infinite Zamasu being different than it was in the anime. I wouldn't be mad at seeing any of that. Toyotaro's depiction manga wise for Dragon Ball Super was a little bit more entertaining in some aspects. The only thing that I wouldn't, you know, care for them to change too much was the Tournament of Power between the manga and the anime. I enjoyed the anime's adaptation of the Tournament of Power a little bit more than the manga, in my opinion. Even though the fight between Gohan and Kefla would be cool to see in the anime, everything else I feel like was done a little bit better in the anime the first time. You know, even just the use of Goku's Ultra Instinct between the anime and the manga, specifically just in the Tournament of Power, because outside of that, I really do enjoy what the manga has been doing with Ultra Instinct, but in the Tournament of Power specifically, I really enjoyed how Goku was portrayed during the Tournament of Power in Ultra Instinct, and how he was able to, you know, kind of use his emotions in a state that he wasn't necessarily supposed to, but then they went and rectified that a little bit more in the anime with, you know, reintroducing Ultra Instinct Sign in the Granola arc, and hopefully we'll get to all that eventually. But that is going to do it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Dragon Ball Genki Daima DLC is officially less than 1 week away, and I am so excited. I got all my chips on the table. Hopefully we will be getting that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero Season 2 DLC announcement sometime this week. And next week, we're all going to be talking about Dragon Ball Super and possibly some movie announcements as well. Again, these are all my opinions. I know nothing. I just have really good feelings, right? But that is going to do it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think down below in the comments and what you are hoping to see from the big event next week. Have a great day. Be safe out there, guys, please. It's crazy times right now. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, my boys.